In what ways does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products?
Within our film noir, we used the film noir convention of a flashback sequence. Emily and I found that these were prominent in the older traditional film noir movies from our research of particular films. We both watched Laura and Double Indemnity, which are all flashbacks until the very end, and loved both films, and so we were certain that we wanted to include this in our own film. We did this through flashbacks of the murder scene between Victor and Jennifer, and the dinner scene featuring Victor and Ava. We faded scenes from the present, which were in colour, to black and white in order to signify that this was the past and viewers were witnessing a flashback. Flashbacks, like in most film noirs, allowed us to demonstrate past events to the audience to help them understand the storyline. We also used a plot twist. These are often in film noirs in order to demonstrate the consistent themes of deceit and mistrust within characters and the story as a whole. Our opening is supposed to lead the audience into thinking that Ava murdered Jennifer after discovering that she was sleeping with her husband, Victor. However, like in Laura, it becomes apparent throughout the film that this is not the case. This aids the viewer's enjoyment of the film, as no one likes a film that is easy to predict. Emily and I were determined to go against stereotypes of the disempowerment of women, which we found was very common in the film noir genre, as they were mostly shown as manipulative, insignificant due to the fact that they were very rarely the focus of the film, and a little insane. Therefore, we challenged the male gaze by removing objectification of women through altering elements of mise-en-scène. For example, the composition of shots showing our main character Ava in the shower are constructed in a way that doesn't allow her to be scopophilically represented in any way. Also, her hair and makeup is quite subtle, and we see her without her makeup, which suggests that women should not have to dress up for men or anyone. The majority of characters in Focus Shift are female, including the detective. The detective character itself is using a stereotype, however the fact that the character is female challenges generic conventions. As well as this, in order to involve modern day topics, later on in the storyline, Ava, who was cheated on by her husband, realises she is bisexual when she falls in love with the detective. This is nothing like anything that was ever in a film noir, so it is evident that this is a theme that we have challenged greatly. Similarly, something else generically featured in a film noir that we challenged was the characterisation of a femme fatale. As times and views on equality and female rights have changed since the production of film noirs, we knew that it was necessary to reflect this within our neo-noir in order to demonstrate that it was a modernised version of a dark tradition. This of course leads me on to something that we developed, a female voiceover. Male voiceovers are used in all three of the traditional film noir movies that I researched, Laura, Double Indemnity and The Big Combo, and I have since discovered that they are also used in many, many others. Emily and I did not intend on using a voiceover, as this is something that we wanted to challenge in order to make clear that this was in fact a neo-noir as opposed to a film noir. However, after some audience research, we realised that we needed a voiceover in order to explain what was going on a bit better so that viewers weren't confused and were instead appropriately intrigued. Therefore, to meet in the middle of our opinions about a voiceover, we decided to challenge the convention by further empowering women and using a female to create the voiceover.
How does your media product represent particular social groups?
Our media film aims to enforce the idea of equality amongst all humans, regardless of gender or sexuality. This is demonstrated by the use of a majorly female cast and the lesbian love affair that unravels throughout the remainder of the story. Traditionally, film noir movies blatantly discriminate against women through trivialising their character. All of the film noirs that I have researched consisted of a heavily male cast, and the main character was always a male. Homosexuality was ignored and heterosexuality was portrayed as the only sexuality. This is mainly because of the time period of which they were produced. Roughly 60 years later, we thought it was very important to present these particular social groups in a much more positive light and demonstrate their importance to today's society. We did this mainly by casting females for significant roles within the film and giving them a challenging plotline.
What kind of media institution might distribute your media product and why?
An independent British film distribution company would potentially distribute my film, as a conglomerate would only distribute blockbusters, which Focus Shift is not. Our film has a niche audience as opposed to a mainstream one, and so an indie company would be more suitable to distribute the film. The controversial storyline revolving around homosexual relations and featuring a female protagonist is not a stereotypical blockbuster, with fairly basic storylines that are popular amongst the majority of people. By evoking controversy within the topics of homosexuality, it is clear that our film would be suitable for a niche audience and therefore distributed by an independent British company like the BBC.
Who would be the audience for your media product?
After doing audience research before the production of Focus Shift, we found that the audience of our film is a primarily youthful crowd of people aged around 15 to 30 years old, and probably mostly females due to the fact that the storyline revolves around mainly females. This is also because young people are generally more accepting of homosexuality, as they have grown up in a society that is much more familiar with non-heterosexual relationships. Most of the audience will be British, as the distribution of the film will not reach across the globe, and so small British companies direct their promotion at a small niche audience. As well as this, a film set in Britain with an all-British cast is more likely to be popular with a British audience.
How did you address your audience? My audience research on the Web 2.0 tool SurveyMonkey allowed me to see that most people preferred the generic hybrid of a film noir romance as opposed to a film noir thriller. Because of this, Emily and I ensured that we included romantic themes within the film, which is shown through multiple complex relationships between Ava and the detective, as well as Ava and Victor and Jennifer. Half of the people we questioned said that they would like a plot twist within the film, which we then included through the revelation of the true murderer at the end of the film. Others wanted crime and cynical themes, which we also involved through the murder of Jennifer and the distress of all characters. By doing these things, we directly attracted and addressed our intended audience. What have you learnt about technologies from the process of constructing this product?
Throughout the process of constructing my media product, I have become much more aware of how to utilise a range of technologies. This includes Final Cut Pro 10, which is the editing resource we used for the entire film, GarageBand, which is what we use to produce music, and Web 2.0 tools, including SurveyMonkey, which we used for audience research, and GoConquer, which we used to present particular film noir research, and GoAnimate, which I used to help construct this particular film. I had never used any of those technological resources, but now, after so much experience with them, I feel confident that I could create a product on them all with ease.
Looking back at your preliminary task, what do you feel you have learned in progression from it to the full product?
Within our preliminary task, we used the 180-degree rule, a match on action, and a shot reverse shot to a basic standard. Our full product involves the same techniques and more, but all to a sophisticated standard. The 180-degree rule was used during the dinner scene. The camera stayed the same side throughout in order to enforce a sense of continuity and to orientate the viewer. The match on action was used when Ava removes her makeup at the beginning of the opening. And finally, the shot reverse shot was also used during the dinner scene between Ava and Victor in order to indicate what the character was looking at to the audience. I feel confident that my skills in film production have benefited hugely from this task.